So we're going to start a new project today, and this one is a beam, porcelain beam figurine. We have some dandelions and a bird on a wire. So we have and I'll show you the breakage inside here. You can see where the dandelion stems attach, and over here somewhere is a leaf, another leaf, and you see this all in front of me here. This is an unusual repair in that we've got something very unusual as far as this repair. This piece of wire here is actually metal. So it's not really wire, it's a molded piece that looks like wires that are twisted on an old rusty fence. So this bird is perched on a piece of this wire that is, an old broken down fence, and a part of the wire is gone. And follow me over here to this fence post. And so it attaches over to the end of this wire here. And normally to repair, and that's the only place it attaches. And so the bird's tail rests on this other rail down here. And so the only place this bird is attached on this is on this wire. So there's my challenge. Normally you would replace this whole metal piece right here. It's all one piece. You could probably get it from Beam. And that would be the normal way to repair this. And so before I do that and try to find this piece, if I can indeed find it as a replacement part from Beam, I'm going to go ahead and attempt to repair this wire myself. And we'll talk about that more when we get to that part of the repair. So that's the most challenging part of this, is this crazy repair on the wire. It's not porcelain, it's metal. I do have some experience with brazing and welding and things like that. Welding's too hot for this. We can't use welding. It would blow away this wire. But I'm going to attempt to braze this with some silver solder. It's very strong, and I hope I can get away with it. If that fails, then we need to go ahead and get this piece and replace it. But it's a challenging repair. And I'm probably going to do that metal part first, because I won't have to worry about breaking off these other flower parts. If I repair the flowers first, they're going to be in my way as I try to work with this bird. And I might even break them again, and that's not a cool thing to do. So we have a challenging job here. Beams are always very detailed, very natural and looking, very beautiful stuff. So it's worth the effort. So we've got a challenge ahead of us. All right, I've got a couple of tiny little petals to put on this dandelion. And I've got some Hickstal on the end of this toothpick. I'll put a tiny drop in there. One petal. I'll just let that set overnight, because I can't get the next one in without bumping that. So I have another tiny petal to put on this dandelion. It's the next day, and I've had this sitting on a shelf overnight. I did not put it in the hot box, so yesterday's application of a petal is still not cured, and I could easily bump it here. So I need to be very careful. place this one without bumping the other one. And that's it. I have a little flake to put on this stem here, on this little bud. Okay, so now I have to get this little guy in there. That's it. Alright, so now I gotta prop this in my sandbox, and I just want to lie this where the stem won't drop into the sand. And I'll just let gravity hold these things in place. And this will go back on the shelf and just wait for that stuff to cure. Alright, I've got some Hextall here. It's a couple days old. It's fairly thick. And you just need a little spot of it here. Can you see that? Okay. And there it is. Okay, another little tiny shard to bond in place. So I have this part here that's for this beam bird, and it has the bird's toenails on it, on this part. And I have to replicate this. I've been trying really hard to find this part from beam, and I've struck out so far. I know they're out there, but I can't find them. So in the meantime, while I'm searching, I'm going to go ahead and see if I can make one of these. So what I have is, this is supposed to represent a piece of old wire fencing that's attached to an old fallen down fence board, and so this part attaches to the fence post, and it's drilled out to accept these spikes, and so we put epoxy on this poke these into the holes. This is very easily bent metal, very, very soft. I don't want to bend it too many times. This is the shape I need. And so you would bend those into place, push this into the hole, bend that one down and to go into the hole, and then hold it in place while the epoxy cures. And then you this is the upside, so this would get that's epoxy on there now. I'd put new epoxy on there, and that would go into a space on the bird where this would. There's a little indentation where this fits, and that glues into the bird. So in the meantime, I'm going to use this piece here to make me a new one. So I'm going to bend this wire to fit where I need it. So I have the other side. I'm going to try something different here. Twist these. I don't want a really tight twist on this. Okay, so I just want enough twist in here to keep them together. Make it look like an old fence. So I'm twisting another wire around that. That'll be pretty close. I'll trim these wires up. Then I'm going to put some brazing on these twists just to kind of make it more solid. It'll make the wire stiffer. It'll hold everything together. That'll give me a base to work on for the cosmetic portion. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut this. Untwist one of these a little bit. Cut that off. So there's my part.
Yep.
I'm putting flux on this. So this will help me help my solder, my brazing compound to flow where I want it. Alright, so this is my flux, and this is my brazing compound. It's a silver solder, 1/16 of an inch, comes in a coil. Yeah, anyway, that's what I'm using. So this is a day-old Hixtl. It's starting to stiffen up a little bit. Tape on the end of that leaf. I've done my rehearsal fit, so I know how this is going to go. So attach stem to the base. Get my alignment set and push my tape down. Okay. So I need a little bit of support under the base of this. So I'm going to take a piece of modeling clay, just to prop it up so the alignment is good. Come on, get in there. There. All right, so I need to glue another leaf in here. And so this is going to attach at the base. And then I'm going to put a piece of tape on here to hold it in place. There'll be glue underneath this, but I'm going to put a piece of tape in there. And we'll see if that holds it in place. So it's going to look something like that. All right. A little glue on the back here. Let it sit for a second and see if it moves. Press my tape down. Yeah, I'm gonna put some clay under that. So I've got some modeling clay. I need to put a little bit of support under here. So I'm gonna press it into place and then squeeze it until it gets some height. Get some height and then press the leaf down into it. So it's a couple days later. My Hixtle's cured, and I'm taking off the modeling clay brace and the tape off of this leaf that we glued the other day. So I made some milliput paste. We just mixed milliput with some water until I had a like paste-like consistency. It's because it's so easy to break these things if I have to press down hard with some of that putty. So I'm going to fill this crack here. There's a little bit of a chipping around the crack, so it's not a clean break. So I am going to use this. Two reasons. One is I can push this in place without breaking the leaf, and also I won't have to file it because I can wipe it with a wet brush or something. So I'll get my fill in here. Put a little water on my tool, smooth it. And I'll come back in a little bit when this sets up a little bit here, and I can wipe some of this off. Actually, some of it I'm going to get right now. But there's a bit of a hole here, and I don't want to wipe it out of that hole. So I'm going to wipe some of this. it's easy to get. Just water on a paintbrush. It's rather tedious, but it'll save me a lot of difficult work ahead if I do this now. What I'm doing here is there's some places where it's on rather thickly and it's the water's not rinsing it off quickly enough, so I'm giving it a little help. Here we go. So if you try this method, you need to be very clean when we do the final rinse of this stuff. Because all this wet that you're seeing me do here, and it looks like it's clear water, but when it dries there'll be a sort of a white haze left over from the residue in the water. So it's important to get as much of it off as you can. So I'm repeatedly cleaning my brush and this pad that I'm wiping the brush on, because I don't want to just reintroduce that wet, cloudy stuff to my brush. So now I'm using less water, hoping to soak up what's on there. Harden overnight, and we'll come back tomorrow and do some painting. And we still have another dandelion to add in here, and we'll do that when we're done painting. So when I'm done painting, I'll pull all this tape and modeling clay off of here. Now time to put some paint on here. All right, so I'm about ready to put this wire on, and so it's going to be bonded to this bird right here, and it will be buried in epoxy here, so I don't want to put any paint or anything on that metal. And so, and then the bird's talons will go around this I have to make those. But right now we're going to paint this. So it's supposed to be a rusty piece of fence wire that broke off and the bird's perched on it. All right, so that's going to be buried in there. So I'm not going to paint this section here, but we are going to be painting this today. So it goes up here on this post. I'll show you. So it gets fastened to this post in here. I don't want to bend this too many times. It's going to go in there and the bird will be perched on it. Something like this. And its tail rests on that log down there. Okay, so that's basically how it goes together. Burnt umber and raw umber and some shading gray or some black in there. Make it look like old rust. Old rust is almost black. It's a real dark brown. So I put milliput on this wire to make it look like crusty, old rusty wire. These little spiky things, they go into holes in the log where it attaches, and that's what helps secure it, to keep it from twisting once the bird's mounted on it. And so put a couple coats of this on there. So, something like that. I'll let that dry. Alright, so I'm getting ready to bond this wire into place. I'm mixing up some clear epoxy paste. It's 5-minute epoxy. First thing I want to do is get it into the hole. Where it's going to go. Sorry, getting in your way there. Alright, get these into the hole. And then bend my wire around. And I need to keep it level. Tape on that just to hold it in place for a minute. All that epoxy cures. Okay, that'll give it 5 minutes, and I'll add some more. Putting a little bit more of this on there under the wire. Give it a little more security. I've got my paint mixed. I'm going to do a little touch up on these dandelions. Here were some petals broke off, and we're not going to try to rebuild them, so we're just going to color this so it blends in with the existing petals. So I need to put a little bit of a matte finish where I put my epoxy yesterday. The epoxy's shiny and I need it to not be shiny, so I'm using this stuff, and, which is my matte finish varnish that I put on things. So right here, it's hard for you to see this, but this is shiny and I need to make it matte. Unfortunately, when it's wet, the matte is shiny too, so you're not going to see it matted. But anyway, that's what I'm doing here. So I'm going to mix my epoxy, some pigment into my epoxy. This is titanium white, powdered pigments. A little bit of this stuff goes a long way. So I'm mixing it into half of my epoxy. That way I can get my mix nice and thorough before I combine the A and B parts. So now I've mixed the pigment into half of this, and now I'm going to combine the two. And this is 5-minute epoxy, and so it's fairly runny until it starts to harden. And since I'm going to be putting this in place on my bird and then turning it upside down, I don't want it to run out of the cavity where I'm putting this. So I'm going to mix it until it starts to stiffen, and then we'll have to work fast, but we'll put it in the bird. And so the idea is I need to get this epoxy into this cavity right here, and then I'm going to turn it upside down, and I don't want it to run out because I've got a tight space to work in over there. So as soon as this starts to react, we'll put it into place. We have to move rather quickly when that happens. Okay. And now that'll hold it in place